Everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the Adidas Adizero Boston 12 and the Hoka Mach X. Now, why are we doing this? Basically because these shoes are actually very similar on paper. They're both have half super foam midsoles, they've got stiffening agents. They're both performance trainers, plated performance trainers, where they're in that kind of 9-ounce range. They can handle faster efforts. They might be racing flats for some people that maybe a super shoe is too much, and they might be daily trainers for people that want kind of some of that essence but don't want to be in a super shoe all the time. Both the Boston has a long lineage and has changed quite a bit. The Mach X is a very new shoe. So really the purpose of this is, yes, while there might be some similarities on paper, I want to help you figure out, are these shoes even appropriate for you? And how would you, if they are, how would you choose between each one? So let's dive into some specs to start out with. Both of them actually, and I do need to acknowledge, I'm getting these specs from the manufacturers. My size 10s have both weighed the same, about like 9.8 ounces for men's size 10. I'll recheck that later. But spec-wise, actually very similar from what I've received from the companies. So 9.4 ounces, men's size 9 for Boston, 9.4 ounces, men's size 9 for Mach X, 8 ounces, women's size 8, 8 ounces, women's size 8, so similar across that. Stack heights, 37 in the heel for the Boston, 37 in the heel for the Mach X, 30.5 in the forefoot for a 6.5 millimeter drop for the Boston, and 32 millimeters in the heel, forefoot, sorry, for a 5 millimeter drop, very classic for Hoka. Both of them have a super foam on top with Piba over here and Light Strike Pro over here, and EVA foams underneath Light Strike 2.0 over here, and the CM EVA over in the Mach X. They've got different stiffening agents. You got the carbon rods in the Boston, and you've got a P-Bax plate in the Mach X, which honestly makes the Mach X more stiff. I was really surprised for a P-Bax plate how stiff the shoe is, so don't assume that just because of a certain material, how that's going to affect it. It's really stiff. I think it's better if we kind of do these things one at a time. So what I want to take you through is fit, rise, stability, and purpose between the two of these. So fit-wise, these are really different. Mach X has kind of a snug, lower volume fit, very classic for Hoka. It does break in a little bit, but it's much more of that, oh, this is a performance shoe, like I'm going to need to be running fast because I might want to get these off pretty quick. I'm just kidding. The Boston has more room. So obviously heel's a teeny bit more snug, but the forefoot has plenty of room for you to splay your toes a little bit on the wider side, which I really like. Midfoot is fairly normal. I did have to work a little bit to get the lacing system down, but it's fine. It locks the foot down without being too snug, but still locking your foot in. I have had a teeny bit of heel slippage, but figuring out the laces really fixed it. Mach X, I have not had any heel slippage. Your foot is locked down really well. Like I said, snug, low volume, very much perform fit, teeny bit more relaxed with the Boston 12. So if you want something more trainer-esque, Boston 12 fit-wise might be a little better. If you want something a little bit faster feeling, Mach X2 might be a little bit better. Going into ride, these are very different. The Mach X, for the first 25 miles, was very stiff, and I was like, this is kind of uncomfortable stiff for daily training. For workouts, especially shorter workouts, it was great. The snappiness, firmness, it really works well for shorter stuff, for shorter fartleks, some track stuff, some intervals. It works really well for picking up the pace really fast. Where it kind of struggled for me was easier efforts and then some longer tempo efforts. It didn't feel as comfortable over longer runs. As it broke in, I got used to it. It was a little bit better, but the Boston 12 felt a lot better over longer efforts. One of the first workouts I did was a tempo run, and it was so smooth. And for a second, I thought I had a super shoe on because it was that smooth. It's great over longer tempo efforts, long runs, feels much better there. The foam is, it's obviously top super foam, right? But it didn't feel as snappy and fast as, say, the Mach X. So the Boston feels much better at steadier efforts. It certainly can pick up the pace. It doesn't have a problem with that. It can do some shorter stuff. The Mach X is just a little bit better at that, whereas the Boston's a little bit better at longer efforts and daily training. It's not so stiff that it can't handle daily training, just like previous, the Boston 11 was too stiff and uncomfortable in general. Boston 10 I really enjoyed for longer efforts. The Boston 12 isn't quite as stable, which we'll get into a second, but it still has the softness and the smooth transition to be able to handle that kind of stuff. So two shoes kind of on the different ends of the spectrum. They can handle some shorter stuff. They can handle some longer stuff, but I really prefer the Boston for longer stuff and the Mach X for shorter, faster stuff, to be honest with you. Not that this can't handle some tempo stuff, but that stiffness just makes it feel a little bit better at that, but it struggles with daily training. Going into stability, these kind of are mixed. These are not stability shoes. They are not stable neutral for a couple reasons. Let's start the Mach X. They did a great job. Hoka, awesome job filling in the midfoot. Thank you for somebody finally doing this. That said, there's more EVA and a lateral sidewall, more so than the medial side. Which makes it feel like it's a little bit more biased at the heel. So I get a little bit of kick inwards when I land. Yes, there's a slight posterior lateral bevel. It's not significant. So if you want a neutral shoe that's just a little bit stiff side to side, the Mach X is going to do really well. Don't come for this looking for stability unless you're looking at the forefoot, which actually does a really good job because there's some small sidewalls here and it's just a little wider and stiffer. Boston, kind of another mixed bag where that posterior lateral bevel is pretty big, and if you land really far at the rear foot like I do, it does act almost like a little lateral bias. Once you get to the midfoot though, the rods extend out on the lateral side, which I'm still not sure why outside of trying to show off their technology over here. What that does when you hit this is it pushes you inwards. So midfoot is definitely neutral, heel a little bit lateral. So if you need some heel stability, this might work well. But if you need some midfoot stability, this is much more of a neutral ride. Again, forefoot's really good, wider rods, does great. Both these have a little bit of challenge with the midfoot over here being neutral and the heel being neutral over here. Little mild lateral bias stability at the rear foot here, better at the forefoot. So if that's what you need, great, but very different places for this. And last, I'm just gonna reiterate this purpose, right? The Boston to me handles better at daily training unless you want something really stiff. In that case, the Mach X is going to do really, really well for you. You do need to know these do have partial super foams and do have stiffening agents. So if you're sensitive to stiffening, it's just excessively stiff midsoles during training, these might not be the best idea for you. If you are trying to get your body used to some of the technologies in the super shoes without overdoing it, these actually are really good, quote unquote, transitional or shoes that you can use for daily training to give your body just a little break from super shoes while you still get used to some of the components. I haven't had any trouble training in these. Again, the Mach X was just a little bit challenging because it was so stiff, but Boston still kind of is a classic daily trainer that can handle faster stuff. I think it's still the shoe that a lot of people are going to remember from the original Bostons. It's getting a little bit lighter, thank goodness, but both these are really solid options. It just depends on what you want. If you want to go really fast over shorter distances, Mach X. If you want to be able to handle some tempo efforts in daily training, the Boston, with a little bit more emphasis on the daily training. Both of them, again, have super shoe components. If you are sensitive to that, be careful. But if not, these are both really good options. And they're really good options among these kind of performance trainers that are coming out that are really nice balance between more the traditional and the super shoe stuff. Both, again, solid options. It's very, very different. I hope that helps you make your decision about whether these are applicable to you and helps you choose which one might be a little bit better for you. We appreciate you always following along and commenting below. Hopefully this helps. We'll check back soon and we'll always have new content. Thanks for watching.